This story is from 2016. Some doctors in Estonia were checking the brain of a patient when they noticed something that no one in medical science had noticed before today. This patient had a brain disease for which doctors were checking his brain activity through EEG tests. It was a normal brain checkup for doctors, like they do on normal patients every day. But they had no idea that something could happen during this test that would shake the medical science completely. A few minutes after the test started, the patient suddenly had a heart attack and died. Such an accident was happening for the first time in the doctor's life that a patient passed out during a brain scan. But doctors are now fully convinced that what was going on in the patient's brain at the time of his death was definitely recorded in this test. And it happened somewhat like this. Everything the patient's brain was thinking before and after death was recorded in this test. The patient who died during this brain scan is an 87-year-old Canadian man who had a disease called epilepsy. Due to this, he had sudden uncontrollable jerking and shaking. So, doctors were performing EEG to monitor his brainwaves. EEG means electroencephalogram. It is a test that monitors the electrical activity going on in the brain. To perform this test, a dozen of electrodes are attached to the patient's head, which detect the electrical charges produced by brain cells and then display them on a computer screen. Now, from the results of this test, how can doctors know what is going on in the patient's brain? To understand this, we need to know the concept of brain activity. There are more than 100 billion neurons in the human brain. These neurons are the most important part of our nervous system, the function of which is to reach a message from one place to another in the brain. This message is actually the electrical charge of the brain, which sends through the neuron from one place of the brain to the neuron of another place, next processes the messages, and then gives the signal to the body parts to perform any action. There are always so many processes going on in the brain. Due to this, incalculable electrical charges move from one place to another. Due to the movement of these electrical charges, a pattern of waves is created, which are called brain waves. This pattern of brain waves is different for each function, which medical science has given different names. So far, medical science recognizes 5 types of brain waves named alpha, beta, gamma, theta, and delta. The pattern of alpha brain waves is somewhat like this, and its frequency ranges from 8 to 12 Hz. That means this wave is created 8 to 12 times in 1 second. Our brain produces alpha waves when our brain is completely relaxed, just like when we wake up in the morning and relax in bed. And alpha waves are also produced when we practice yoga. Now, know about beta waves. The pattern of beta waves is something like this, the frequency of which is from 3.5 to 40 Hz. And it is produced when we wake up well and get busy with our work. Apart from this, beta waves are also produced when we think about something or concentrate on something. The frequency of gamma waves ranges from 25 to 140 Hz. And among the brain waves, it is the most high-frequency waves. Our brain produces gamma waves when we are most active or doing an extremely complex task. People who are highly intelligent or can solve a difficult problem in minutes have gamma waves behind them. Delta waves have the lowest frequency of all brain waves, ranging from 0.5 to 4 Hz. Delta waves are created in our brain during deep sleep. That means when we are sleeping very deeply. Delta waves produce many types of hormones in our body, especially growth hormone. These waves are mostly found in children, and as human grows, delta waves also decrease. And last of all, let's talk about theta waves. The frequency of theta waves is from 4 to 7 Hz, and it is created in the brain during memorizing anything learning new skills, and daydreaming. Now, when we know the basic of brainwaves, then that patient's brainwaves will be a little easier to understand. As we know, the frequency of gamma waves is from 25 to 140, and within this range, there is another range, which is from 30 to 100 Hz. And the brain produces gamma waves of this special frequency when we continue to use our memory. That is, when we remember the special events of life. The doctors noticed a lot of gamma waves in the brain of the Canadian patient at the time of his death, which specifically falls within that range when a person recalls the special memory of life. Earlier, scientists tried to notice the brain activity of people while dying, but they could not record them completely. But in the case of this Canadian patient, good and bad moments came in front of him before death. Doctors and scientists studied the dying patient's gamma waves from 2016 to 2022 continuously for 5 years and found that people remember their life events when they die. Doctors and researchers do not have any concrete proof of these findings, but to prove their findings, they also talk to patients who have come back alive from the face of death, or some patients whose lives were saved by reaching the hospital at the last minute. This was their answer when asked. In front of them, like someone played a flashback of their life. Not one or two people faced this experience, but many people gave this same answer. Doctors and researchers have not published this brain scan research since 2016 because one reason is they wanted to study it well, and secondly, they wanted to match the brain scan of this Canadian patient with the brain scan of another person at the time of death. But they failed in this task. Now, since the doctors only had a brain scan of one person, so their findings are very controversial. Doctors have also written in the research paper that the Canadian patient was already suffering from a disease due to which he was taking many medicines. These medicines can also alter the brain activity. For that reason, the result can be different. But actually, there are very high chances of this happening that when a person is dying, then in front of them a flashback of his entire life plays. And if this is true, then the person who has done good deeds in his life, the same thing will be repeated in front of him at the time of death. And obviously the person who has chosen the path of bad deeds will have similar flashbacks. What do you think about this research? Let me know in the comments section. Hope this video helps you to gain new knowledge. Show your love by giving a like and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.